Love is more than just a feeling. What if it's a universal force shaping how we understand ourselves, our community, and the world? Welcome to the Philosophy of Love, where we break down the science behind love, how it influences our minds, our behaviors, and the way we connect with humanity. Join us as we explore the psychology of love as a driving force for empathy, growth, and understanding. You're watching the Philosophy of Love podcast with Juan Lee and Dr. James Brockington.
Hello, hello. How you doing, Doc? How you doing today?
Hey, all set to start this new year off the right way, man.
I hear you. I hear you. Hey, well, welcome back, everybody. My name is Juan Lee, along with Dr. James Brockington, and we're here under a new program, which is called the Philosophy of Love. If this is your first time, please hit the like button and hit the bell. If you want to learn more about Clear Journey, please, by all means, go over to Clear Journey. We are a nonprofit that supports individuals that are looking to solve problems, challenges. We want to be able to give you the right mindset so that you can navigate life successfully in all areas of life. And that's, again, goes back to my book that I wrote. It's called Love Made Simple, The Guide to Inner Peace. It's the foundation for Clear Journey. And it's really how we allow ourselves to navigate life. And what we're suggesting is that we use it. We use love to help navigate ourselves through life. And that's what we're here to do, and to help you navigate that thing with a clear journey, with the philosophy of love. That's what this is all about. Dr. James Brockington is here to show us how the science behind this journey that I went on, that I've been able to share with you all, how it has the science behind it, and really help us to be able to see things clearly, so that all of us can navigate this thing called life more successfully. I can't find my template for my book, but you've seen it before, and if I can find it before we leave here, I will let you know. But you can always find me, if you need to find me, at clearjourney.org, where I can be reached for more information, and I can give you more information about the book. But again, that's why we're here, to help and assist you on this thing called life, this journey, this life journey. So, Doc, how have you been?
Hey, I've been great. I've been, as you have been saying, adjusting to the new year, becoming comfortable with the new gadgets and gadgets that are associated with it, the bells and whistles, and just quite frankly, settling into what for all of us is going to be a most challenging new year, but also the most inspiring and the most enlightening new year, because it gives us an opportunity to actually get into the organicness, the connectedness, and the power that we as individuals have. We now are really going to have to focus on that level. We, the people, as the foundation, that level of interactiveness. And that's what Clear Journey is all about.
Yeah, that connection, togetherness. And today, I didn't get a chance. We were running, trying to get everything up and running and connecting today. But today, we're going to piggyback off of a little bit of what we talked about in our initial episode. And it's really putting things into perspective a little bit. And really, it's like, what is the impact or the significance of a mindset?
When you're talking about a mindset, and let's break it into its two component parts, mind and set. When you're talking about a mindset, what you're actually seeing in an illustrated format is the thought process an individual has that underscores, amplifies, and strengthens their decision-making process. There's the adage that says, I think, therefore I am. The composite of the mindset to that becomes, I think, therefore I am, therefore I think. The trust and confidence that emerges each and every time, my thoughts, my commitment to those thoughts, my internalizing the options and the choices that emerge from those thoughts that facilitate and inspire me to take the actions necessary for those thoughts to become a direction, meaning, and purpose in my life is what the mindset becomes. The more I do it, the more fluent I am. The more fluent I am, the more I do it. In essence, the more it works for me, the greater the likelihood is increased that I'll continue to do it because it simply works for me. Now that's the key, for me.
Well, and I think that's the essence of where I think we're going to head through, because the mindset for me, as I was on this journey, and I really go back to when I was about 17 years old, where I didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was making decisions, and my behaviors was in connection with that which I didn't know. It was like I was making decisions out of something that I didn't know. And I don't understand. And it was interesting because I didn't know that I didn't know. And the reason I say this because I had an undiagnosed learning disability. And until I was like 37 years old, I was undiagnosed. So my behavior was operating out of something that I did not know, and I was establishing a relationship with it, and I was doing it repetitively, because here's the thing. While I was going through school, I was labeled as a discipline problem. I had a discipline problem. They said it was a discipline problem.
Yeah, because you were acting out.
Acting out of what I didn't know.
And that's, unfortunately, that's the consistent go-to default when you're observing someone who is experiencing an event in a different frame of reference from you as the observer of him or her is accustomed to seeing.
Well, I mean, as a teacher looking at a child in the sense of trying to teach that child, and they have, no attention span to what's going on, but now acting out because they cannot associate or cannot adapt or cannot understand what is being taught. So as a result, labeling them as a problem child or disciplinary problem. And so I was now operating out of what I did not know about myself. And it's about that was the mindset that I had established at a young age. I'm talking about in preteens.
Exactly. Yeah. 17 years of age. Yeah. Because that's when we start establishing that sense of connection and congruity within ourselves.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about 12, 11. I'm talking about 4th and 5th grade. I was 10 years, 11 years old. It was like, this is what I had established as normal.
That is exactly how the developmental stages in an individual align themselves and define themselves. From basically conception until roughly the age of 5 to 7, we're engaged in what is sometimes referred to as the mentoring and nurturing stage in development, where we start internalizing what are going to be our core beliefs, our core principles, core values, and the basic way in which we make decisions. Those decisions stemming from the choices that emerge from those principles, values, and that thought process that gives them meaning and purpose. Well, right around the age of basically 10 to 14, we are internalizing what has been mentored and nurtured, and we start engaging in what is a reforming of our acknowledgement. And I use the word reforming because we're fine-tuning it, reforming an acknowledgement of those core principles, values, basic decision-making. That is our transformation phase. This is where we're starting to develop an integrated sense of self-esteem, sense of self-worth. Out of that self-esteem and self-worth emerges respect, i.e. self-respect, a sense of aligning that respect to purpose and meaning, and that purpose and meaning becoming the decision to reinforce it. In that formative stage, again, roughly 10 to 17, in that window, our sense of congruity and our alignment to the meaning and purpose of what that means to us becomes, and you've used this word several times, what we know. Now, in mental health resource management terms, the acronym of KNOW, KNOW, actually means knowledge normalizing operational worldview. That's a $50 mouth worth of words being said. This simply means that the knowledge we have normalizes how we operate in our worldview.
Mm-hmm.
I think, therefore I am. I am, therefore I think. The trust, the confidence, the sense of how our emotions link us to our feelings, which is referred to as self, the systemic emotional link to feeling, motivates us to have a stable platform in our decision making. Why is the stability of that platform so essential? Because it reinforces our sense of self. When someone, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, because now all of those positive things that you're referring to, if not properly developed, we then turn into a situation, because all of those things that you talked about, self-esteem, all of those things having to do with positive affirmations of oneself, I didn't have them. I didn't have them.
And in a very defined sense, that became your worldview.
Exactly. And that was what I didn't know about myself, was the fact that I had a learning disability that was causing the behavior or the viewpoint that I was having of the world, of myself.
And here's the way in which that externalizes, gets it out of yourself into the system that is your relationship to the world. Because right around the age of basically 18 into however we live as adults, we are now becoming the composite of our thoughts and our behaviors. That is your thinking and personality alignment, your thinking and behavior organization, your model, if you will. When an individual reaches a point where he or she has what is considered to be an extremely negative view of him or herself, then the abnormality of that will present itself as a personality-related event. This is how I, as a person, am interacting with those around me. This is where we can see elements of what now become the crux of what mental health resources focus their attention on with specificity, and that is what we sometimes refer to as the disorders that can occur, and how a person's orderly transition into a societal expectation is presenting itself. Words like depression, anxiety, words like compulsivity, words like aggressive behavioral issues, acting out become the buzzwords that when we look at the individual and his or her developmental trajectory can be traced all the way back to those very first points in time, mentoring and nurturing, when the foundation to align myself effectively with my environment became destabilized for whatever reasons.
Yeah, I mean, you're really speaking to a very poignant point in my book where I talk about the family.
Absolutely.
And how significant the family is in that nurturing level as to how you will view your life's journey, how you will begin to pick and choose the avenues that you choose in life has a lot to do with that particular foundation that's laid there for you. But at the same time, it does not necessarily have to, if you are aware, and like in my case, I'll be honest with you, in my case, I had a foundation that was pretty sound as it relates to a home foundation. But what I did not know was something that I was dealing with innately, which was a learning disability, which then affected the way in which I perceived myself and the things around me, not knowing what the cause and the effect would be going forward. But at the same time, realizing, because when you said something very significant, you said that at the age of 18, there was a significant thing that happened in my life that turned the tables for me. Because it gave me a sense of confidence and assurance in myself when I went into the military.
And what you get from that is the adaptive behavior expectation. Okay. When you clearly, if we reach a point, every individual, even those who have what we consider to be profound mental health management concerns, will reach a point where they do have the capacity, be it large or small, they do have the capacity to distinguish this from that. They can see the expectation from the actual occurrence. And one of the strengths that we bring with prenatal development, early child care, because these are the ways in which the 17-year-old you is now coming to terms with the more matured. You notice I didn't throw your age in there. Coming to terms with the more matured you. And this is how we have looked at the school system. We've looked at the entire socialization aspect of how we rear individuals, how we internalize the capacity to make them feel that they are worthy contributors to the societies that we are speaking to. I'm now speaking to such aspects of mental health as personality development, social psychology, community clinical psychology. We have all of these ways now that we can introduce into the familial structure that is not necessarily the biological family, but also the encompassing organic and vibrant societal families that interact. This is the neighbor that lives down the street that becomes, quote unquote, big mama in the neighborhood. This is the police officer. This is the coach. This is the teacher that you can sometimes gravitate towards as a struggling individual who can give you insights into yourself. We've got organizations like the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. Denzel Washington just received a Presidential Medal of Freedom for his work in this area, along with some other things, but still emphasizing that we have figures that get this and are now reintroducing it into a wand that in this day and age, existing between 5 to 17, would have an entirely different sense of what it meant for him to just perceive his environmental circumstances slightly different from someone else's interpretation of it.
Well, I mean, you really now you really begin to wrap in purpose, and having understanding of purpose, in identifying self-value and worth, so that you can begin to identify it and cultivate it at a young age as possible, so that you can, see how you have an impact in this bigger us, so to speak, this universal,
So.
this collective. So
when you align that with love, what you're looking at is the living organic, the aspect of its vibrance and its environmental / emotional foundation. So you're tying all of that together. And when you make love simple, as your book is specifically designed to do, you begin to see how fundamental it is that as early on as you can in an individual's life, give him or her a sense of purpose and meaning, a sense of value, a sense of the capacity to grow and expand beyond circumstances and situations. You're doing the most important thing for him or her that you can do. And that's giving them that mindset.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something that, as we continue to develop this, I mean, because there's so many different aspects of this journey, that this foundation that you're laying right here in this mindset, and because what we're doing with love is now using love to influence our mindset. That's the whole philosophy of love. It's like, okay, now we're going to use love to influence our mindset, so that it will be the vehicle that will do the directing and the persuading in areas that are significant in our course of direction in life. And
look
so
how vibrant that becomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the point that I'm saying. But it comes from a place that is authentic to yourself. And that means that it's what you're presenting now is something that's authentic in the collective, in the community, in the neighborhood, in the collective, that really sees value. I mean, you self-love is now evident in how you present and show up when you know these things about yourself, and how significant it is that you are a part of this developmental process. It's just phenomenal to be able to understand that. And at any age is possible. Don't get me wrong. At any age is possible.
Absolutely.
But the system is created in a manner in which the earlier you get it, the more productive you are in this journey, because you'll have the necessary tools, love, to be able to navigate the various stages of this thing called life.
And because you possess that at a very rudimentary / early age, you become more proficient in developing the sense of congruity that we call confidence. That is the trust that we reinforce in our choices that enable the actions that are decisions to be so decisive and so self-affirming. And that's ultimately what we as young adults, and we're now talking basically the 19 to the 35, 36, depending on which graph you want to look at, speaks to.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about, 70 being the new 51. I'm not going there yet. We'll get there.
I am.
You going there? We're talking about how
I'm a young adult.
And in that sense of being the young adult, look at the vibrance, the freshness, the excitement and the enthusiasm that it can give to you. things take on a different perspective when an individual feels that inspirational engagement. And that's what we want to talk about. That ultimately is what love is supposed to be.
Hey, and you're just, you stomped on various things that we're going to dig into later on these other episodes. But perspective, and love, and purpose, we're going to dig into what those things are all about, because as you've said in the past, you talked about the ABCs of love, and the attitude, the behavior, and the choice. These are all the things that we oftentimes overlook the impact that they have on our journey. And when we're able to, succinctly know what those attitudes, those beliefs, and those choices are, they lead us to outcomes.
Yeah, and those outcomes become the measurable, or what we call the activating behavioral characteristics.
Yeah. And so we really can begin to, in many cases, dissect our journey, if there are places where we don't want to be, to places that we do want to be. And in many cases, find the detour or the navigation that's necessary to avert some pitfalls in our lives, and in some cases to bridge some gaps in our lives, or to prevent some things, or to correct some things that have happened, by just readjusting and changing our perspective and in how we view various situations in our lives.
And that is why that entire process leads to the critical thinking, the criticality of it, the significance, the importance of it, the well-grounded and established sense of meaning and purpose that it brings. And when we get it right, it underscores the reasoning that we can bring to any circumstance or situation we find ourselves in. We can be driving down the highway and we don't have to take that off ramp into some cul-de-sac because we have lost our sense of meaning and purpose. We can see mile markers along the way that tell us, okay, because you know the person you want to be, you can see how this doesn't contribute to that. Clarity in choices, the criticality of that thinking. The more you think, you're demonstrating your capacity to understand, accept, and acknowledge. And in that sequence, your behavior will always adapt to what it is you understand. You will accept what it is you can achieve because you are acknowledging the meaning and purpose of that. So you adapt, you adjust, and you achieve fluidity in the balance between you, your circumstances, and your situations. And that ABC, if you will, becomes the attitudes, the beliefs, the choices, the activating behaviors, the characteristics that reinforce those behaviors that become clearly definable and measurable. This is the correction part. Measurable. You can see how effective this is or not. When you're not saying the words you need to say to turn her head in a certain direction, you can understand when those words aren't working. You do not need some of the old heads like Barry White. I know I'm dating myself, Barry White and Marvin Gaye, to point it out for you,
Hey, it worked though, I tell you.
Well, Luther was there for a reason. But we diverse.
Yeah. But again, I guess those are the things that I'm referring to. I guess that we need to really understand is that we have a active role in this journey. That with the right tool, the right understanding of the tools, that we can basically look at our situations and be able to evaluate them and understand the success or failure stems back to a process that we engaged or initiated at certain point in our journey, and own it, come and gain ownership of it.
Yeah, maintain
And
ownership
own
of
it,
it.
because it's at that time that you can evaluate it and be able to make decisions because you've owned it.
And here's a carryover for me as a mental health resource person. Here's a carryover. When someone else is struggling and they see you engaging in a process that's building successes for you, they become more inclined to want to listen, to want to experience. You, in effect, become a role model. We've heard that word battered about back and forth for eons, role models. What you are is a realistic orientation to the learning experience. You're realistically orienting this person to what it means to learn in this experience, how to become whom they are. Own that, the mindfulness of it. That is the connectivity, the soft and the hard tissue connection that we bring when we are expressing this to every individual that we engage in and engage with.
I didn't mess up. Did you see that?
Very quickly, but I know what you're doing. You're getting that plug in subliminally.
I'm trying to learn. But anyway, that was a book that we have at Clear Journey. And that book is having to do with finances. So that's another part of the things that we do at Clear Journey. Again, the things that we deal with Clear Journey, all of these things work together. The mindset helps us with all of them.
The funny part about it is, in the mindset, we use subliminal seduction a lot.
Well, I tell you where I was trying to get to with my book, and because I wanted to put that up, but it's on the wrong panel, and so I can't get to it right now.
That's okay.
But we're going to learn and grow from this experience.
Yes, we are.
I can say this in absolute that by the time we get to the next episode, I will have gotten better at this new change to our platform. But like I said, if there is anything that you can understand or appreciate about me and us and here at Clear Journey, is that we're going to be authentic.
Look at the enthusiasm that you build.
I tell you, that in of itself is something that is priceless.
Yeah.
To be able to walk in your authenticity, and be real, be real with yourself and with those that you're being a part of and being exposed to. So this is who Clear Journey is, to be honest with you.
And you're taking a step forward.
And we're not perfect here. But at the same time, we do have value that we want to share and add, and by no means try to judge us based on our technical skills here. but by all means, find a place that fits for you, and hopefully we can connect with you for being with us. What
better mindset are you creating by doing that?
Yeah.
What better congruous and connected mindset are you establishing? This is a place where I, as a participant in our discussion, can go to comfortably. I'm not going to be chastised. I'm not going to be ridiculed. I'm going to come in and I'm going to actually have two guys just, having a casual conversation. I'm going to have two guys in the midst of their conversation that are pointing out to me some things that kind of sort of really do make sense now that you say it like that. And I can see them flub something in a presentation and say, that's being human. And that's what humans do. I like that.
But here's the thing of being human, though, with the intention of meeting the needs of others.
Exactly.
Okay, because what I don't want people to take from these mistakes or these blurbs or these authenticity is is the fact that it's to cover up something.
Oh, yeah.
I am, I'm being human is not to cover up something, and it's not an excuse for not knowing better. So I am going to put it on my to-do list is to do better the next time. And so that this will never be the instance again. But at the same time, in the moment, understand it as that this human behavior is only as a result of giving you my best at the moment.
And because I can adapt to that and I can adjust to that, I can be fluid with that. You live the example, and this is probably one of the ways to reinforce it, because you actually, as people have said for years, you practice what it is you preach, and you preach what you practice. You're establishing the acknowledgement that I can see something that I am doing at the moment. I can see how to correct it, and I can engage in that moment, and in so doing, overcome any obstacle I encounter using the exact same format.
Yeah.
The moment I understand, I can act. I can accept, I can challenge, and I can move forward from that.
Taking ownership.
Taking ownership.
There you go. So with that being the summary of today's mindset, we're going to wrap this up. I tell you, if you want to learn more about what Clear Journey is doing, by all means, go over to clearjourney.org. If you want to reach myself or the doctor, you can also reach us at info@clearjourney.org. And again, we promise the next time to have all of the things available and accessible to you when you see us on the screen. So if you have anything else, Doc?
Yeah, the one thing I want to add to that is please take us up on that offer to go to info and just talk. If you got something that is popping and you want to discuss it, all you got to do is email us, and you're going to get a response very quickly.
All right. And we're gonna have some things specifically a specific email address established by next time, so we can do that in addition to you. All righty. So until next time, like I said always, that we can't change life, but we can surely help you navigate it nice. So until next time, we'll see you then.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching this episode. Take a moment to head over to our social media platforms, connect with us, and leave a comment. We'd also love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, head over to clearjourney.org for more great resources. We'll see you next time on the Philosophy of Love podcast.